Hey everyone, Joellen here and welcome to Washed in Watercolor. My inspiration for today is this beautiful seaside cottage. Using watercolor, I'm hoping to capture the light on the right hand side and the lovely cast shadow on the structure. Typically, I use Winsor Lemon professional watercolor paints. Here's a list of colors for today's study. I'll begin with a basic drawing. I recommend using a 2H pencil, and for this you'll need a ruler. And I'll first start by marking off the horizon line, and then I'll draw a basic cube shape representing the cottage. There's a lot of perspective going on in this small shape, so if you're drawing this out, really pay attention to all of the angles to make sure that you have the correct perspective. I'm satisfied with this shape, so I'll just add in a few broken lines to indicate the foreground. I like to use PBO drawing gum, and here are a few tools I use to apply the drawing gum. I want to mask out areas to either retain the light or free up my hand so I can easily not worry about going into areas with paint. Any brush I decide to use, I pre-treat with a solution that's mostly made up of water with a little bit of dish soap and a couple drops of ammonia. This seems to work well for most brushes, but never use your good brush to apply masking fluid. This applicator is called the Incredible Nib, and it has a wooden tip to it, and it's really great for getting fine lines. When masking in the grass, I really want to keep in mind aerial or atmospheric perspective, where when I'm masking in front, I'm keeping the grass nice and tall, large, and when I mask in the back, I keep everything a little tighter together and fine. Once the drawing gum has dried, I'm carefully placing a piece of masking tape right on the horizon line. The idea is that I want to have a nice, clean, straight line, and I'm afraid if I do this with just painting it freely, my horizon line may not be so straight. And I'm using a little bit of Prussian blue, which is a blue that leans towards green or yellow, along with some ultramarine blue, which is a blue that leans more towards red or purple. And together they make a beautiful combination for the water. I use my hairdryer to dry the water, and then using clean water, I wet both the sky and the water below. I'll paint a variegated wash using ultramarine blue, a little bit of Prussian blue, and then I'll grab some quinacridone magenta. I'm working wet into wet paint, which really allows my colors to flow one to the other. And I'll also tilt my paper, and that also helps the paint to spread in certain directions. Once the sky and water are dry, I will sporadically wet the foreground with clean water. For now, I'll avoid the area where there are rocks, and to the foreground I'll add a little bit of yellow ochre along with some Winsor violet, a little bit of sap green, and perylene maroon. I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna to this color combination. I'm mindful of the direction of my brush strokes, and where there are twigs or grass or bushes, whatever, coming up, I'll have my brush strokes point in that direction. And where there is that very subtle path, I'll have my brush strokes go in a horizontal direction. I'll paint the rocks with a very light coat of purple before completely drying the painting. Using ultramarine blue, perylene green, and perylene red, I'll mix together a very dark color. I'll use this to paint the rocks in the background, and I want to be careful that I leave little spaces in between the rocks where the light would be hitting. And the bottom edge, I'll use a damp brush with clean water to soften that bottom edge. Whatever I do on the right side, I will also do on the left side. When everything is completely dry, I'll use a rubber cement eraser or rubber cement pickup to lift any of the masking fluid. For now, I'm just taking off the masking on the cottage. Even though the right-hand side of the cottage looks to be white, very rarely in painting is anything a pure white. So using a lot of water and just touches of my yellow along with my magenta, a little bit of blue, I'll just lightly coat the area on the right-hand side of the cottage. To the shadowed side on the left, I'll add a little bit of quinacridone magenta along with ultramarine blue. Once everything has dried, I'll mix a little bit of burnt sienna with perylene maroon and I'll paint the chimney and the roof. I add a little bit of perylene green to this mixture and I'll put in some dark touches along the top, sides, and bottom of the roof. I add a little bit of texture to the right side of the cottage. Using that same combination of ultramarine blue, perylene maroon, along with perylene green, I'll continue to darken areas. I'm moving pretty quickly, putting in the lines of the roof, but if you're painting along, you may decide to take your time with this and really study the shapes. Using that same combination of colors, but adding a little bit more green into it, I will paint the window and the door. While both are still wet, I'll add a few touches of magenta and just let the paint move and spread itself. Mixing colors in that same area on my palette, I'll add some ultramarine blue along with some quinacridone magenta, and I will again paint the shadowed side of the cottage. While everything is still wet, I'll add a little bit of a shadow and some burnt sienna to the area under the roof. I next paint some darker details in the window and door. I want everything to be completely dry before using my flat brush to clean up any errors. Okay, and now for the best part. I use a little bit of ultramarine blue along with quinacridone magenta to paint the cast shadow running on the right sunny side of the cottage. At this point, I'll leave the cottage alone and I will work on the foreground. Using that same darker mixture, I will indicate some steps and then some shadows within the grass. And the grass does have a cast shadow from the cottage on the left-hand side, so I'll put that in as well. Touches of burnt sienna really make a big difference. To really give this picture some depth, I will darken things in the foreground, and that will help to push everything back. I'm giving the door a little bit of a wash with more of an olivey green. I feel that works better for this painting. Using less water and that same color combination, I'll create the smokestack with dark paint, and then I'll put in little accents or touches of darks here and there. I'll pick up some maroon perylene, and using my script brush, I will paint in some of the foliage surrounding the base of the cottage. With everything dry, I'll take off my remaining masking. I'm not quite satisfied with the edge of the roof, so again I'll use some masking tape and I'll mix up a dark combination, and I'll just give that a bit of a darker edge, and voila, there it is. Finally, I'll add some touches of yellow ochre and quinacridone gold to the foreground. I hope you enjoyed watching my painting unfold. Please remember to like and subscribe. Okay, I'm really happy with how this came out, so I think it's just time to sign it and remove the tape. If you're painting along, I hope you had a great time and much success. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.